The Elon premium on the line. According to the Times, Musk hints he could walk away from running Tesla if shareholders reject his gargantuan pay plan. Call it what it is, negotiation by megaphone. Again, he wants up to $1 trillion in compensation if he does what he thinks he can do for Tesla. That's the kind of compensation he wants. Here's the math that makes "I'll quit" a weak threat. Bear with me here. It does involve some numbers. Tesla's market cap is about $1.52 trillion. Huge company. Musk owns roughly 13 to 15% of Tesla, about 410 million plus shares, putting his current stake near $200 to $230 billion. Now, Tesla's trailing 12-month net income is about $5.08 billion. If investors valued Tesla like a normal car company at roughly 8.5 to 10 times earnings, Tesla would be worth $43 to $50 billion, not $1.52 trillion. That implies a valuation drop of roughly $1.47 trillion if Musk were to leave and they had a conventional CEO. Now, Musk's loss on his stake would be around $189 to $226 billion, far more than any single pay package from another company could replace. So the Elon premium cuts both ways. It enriches him when it exists, and it devastates him if he leaves. That's why this sounds like a bluff. So what's the real message here? Prediction: Elon Musk is bluffing if he says he's going to walk without the $1 trillion pay pack. Yes, he is valuable to Tesla, but without him, his own pocketbook gets a massive, massive couple $100 billion hit. Can't afford to walk away. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. So should people be billionaires? Bernie Sanders says no. I say yes. If you're going to take massive, massive risk, and Elon Musk has, and if you're going to come up with a vision and get thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases, millions of people working on a joint effort, I have no problem with you becoming wealthy. But at some point, the idea of being a publicly traded company and having a so-called independent board and having a compensation committee should not mean just giving a rubber stamp to anything a charismatic leader asks for. It just seems too much. And I can understand him wanting more power. He seems to relish the idea of being the richest man in the world. And if this happens, he would further cement his reputation as likely to be the richest man in the world, maybe for a long, long time. But I just think so many people don't realize how much of a premium Tesla gets because Elon Musk is the CEO. His idea of, oh, don't look over here at our numbers on car sales. Look at my big vision of how we are going to have robots controlling the whole world. And look at my big vision as to how we're going to have millions of autonomous cars doing everything everywhere. Look at that. You can't necessarily do that if you bring in a typical MBA CEO who is bland and boring, which, let's face it, most CEOs who aren't the founders fit that model a lot more. So that's why I think, and I'm not the only observer to point this out. Other commentators like Scott Galloway points out correctly that the best thing in the world for Tesla is Elon Musk, but the worst thing in the world for Tesla is Elon Musk. If they lose him, it could be a balloon deflating. And the same goes true for Elon Musk. The best thing in the world for him is Tesla, because the biggest chunk of his net worth. Now, he'd still be rich without Tesla, presumably, but it is the biggest chunk of his net worth. So the worst thing in the world for him is if Tesla suddenly loses its charismatic CEO, where everyone is given a massive, massive premium. So again, if Tesla were simply valued the way other car companies with similar earnings are valued, it would still be a significant company. I mean, no one's saying it's irrelevant, but it would be valued between $43 and $50 billion, not $1.5 trillion. To put this in perspective, it's like saying, okay, your kid has a lemonade stand out front, and it's profitable. They sell 10 cups of lemonade a day at $2. And so the revenues are $20, and let's say the costs are $5 for lemons and sugar. And saying, okay, we're now going to value that lemonade stand at $1 million. Well, that would be crazy. You're assuming your kid is going to expand and take over the whole neighborhood, the whole state, and be selling gazillions of gallons of lemonade every day. That's essentially what has happened to Tesla. It may turn out to be true. We will see. Elon Musk, a colorful character and fascinating to me in the sense that by traditional metrics, he's an awkward speaker. Lots of summer. He stammers. He seems nervous. Many commentators have pointed out that he looks almost like a twitchy child with on the spectrum, which he says in the past, his words that he's on. He speaks too quickly. Sometimes he speaks in a clipped way. He can be hard to understand sometimes. So by most conventional metrics, he's not a great speaker. However, I would argue that he is the most compelling storyteller in the history of finance, in the history of the corporate world. He is able to tell a story, whether it is for Tesla, whether it's for SpaceX, whether it's for digging tunnels. He's able to tell stories that makes investors think, wow, I really believe this story. I want to be a part of this story. So my real message to you is fine, polish your public speaking skills. I mean, that's what I do for a living, is I teach people like you how to be better public speakers. But realize the most important part of speaking to really enhance your career is having a compelling story that people say to themselves, I want to be a part of that. This person is seeing the future, and I think they're painting a picture that's credible, interesting, rewarding, and I want to be a part of that. If you can speak and tell stories like that, people will forgive you for saying and us and repeating words and twitching or having a black eye. They will forgive all that if you can tell a compelling story about the future. So I say all the time in all of my classes, yes, we want to eliminate verbal tics and ums and uhs. Yes, have good vocabulary. Don't mispronounce. All those things are a little bit important, but really most important things, having a compelling story, whether you want to be a billionaire or get your first job out of high school.